Welcome all the Zuconians out there today. Just that little thumbs up if you can hear me. Just playing a little great music there. Brings back great memories, that song, Agadoo. Agadoo, because we do. That's what Agadoo does. Now, Dr. Zoo is with you today, Monday, 13th of July. Here we are, 13th of July, episode 89, everybody. 89. Let's get the bits and pieces out early. AUSTRAC. Nothing new, but 28 days to go from Dr. Zoo's calculations being the 12th of May. He was corrected the other day. Thought it was the 15th, but that was for the Australian Financial Review Awards. And by the way, Yapoon, here we go, Yapoon. Welcome. Thank you very much, everybody. Bali. We love Bali. We love Bali. Some good stuff happening in Bali. Looks like Dr. Zoo read the other day there might be a bit of an economic zone coming into Bali. Wouldn't that be amazing, eh? That'll take a lot of Australians out of Australia and put them into Bali. Australians love Bali. They go up there and away you go. So now, welcome Brisbane, friendly citizen, always ahead. It is exciting times, everybody. Look, there's that much going on. Dr. Zoo was a bit flustered. He took a dive on the weekend, sadly, but he's okay. Dr. Zoo is okay. Do not panic. Do not panic. But yes, this is what happens when an over 60-year-old goes to a under 7-year-old birthday party and chases these little rat bags around. Grandkids, they called. And let me tell you, he took a dive. It wasn't very pleasant. Luckily, the knee's okay. It's not broken, but a bit sore over the weekend, which gave Dr. Zoo the opportunity to sort of wind down and listen to a lot and watch a lot of crypto stuff on the weekend, which just puts him all over the shop today. I had some visions that, and we'll probably touch on the great stuff that was coming out of Ethereum, which I alluded to last week. Vitalik's having all sorts of troubles with the lean, mean Ethereum machine. 8 years behind us. We'll smash that out of the park. Don't worry about that, people. And Ireland. Hey, Dr. Zoo has got some unbelievably fond memories of Ireland, one of the great peoples of the earth, especially their pubs, Dublin. Tell you a funny story about that. This is a quick one. Dr. Zoo was having a great time in Ireland there, met some fantastic Irish people, got to know the lingo, could even talk Irish. To be sure. And so much so that 4 years later, Dr. Zoo's daughter happened to be in Ireland in the very same pub, and you wouldn't believe it. A few questions were asked, talked about some crazy people back in Australia. One of them was Dr. Zoo, and you wouldn't believe it, they made the connection. They made the connection between Dr. Zoo's daughter and Dr. Zoo, and the party just went on and on and on. Let me tell you, love Ireland. Got plenty of stories about Ireland to talk about, but not today. I cannot afford too many tangents. There's so much to talk about. It's unbelievable. Now, I was going to start, as I said, going on about Vitalik, but then something else dragged Dr. Zoo into a vortex, especially after his fall. As I said, a little bit of a sore knee, sore ankle, and elbow. Elbow is a bit wound up. Don't want to lift it too high. But don't you worry about a thing. Dr. Zoo is still here. In fact, when Dr. Zoo went down, there was a moment there that he thought he was caught up in the matrix, that he was going to start flying. It was by the time the communication was moving between the brain and his legs, it was a very brief, quick moment that Dr. Zoo thought he was flying, but it wasn't to be. In fact, it was better than a satellite of Elon Musk crashing back to Earth, because that's what happened. He crashed pretty quickly back to Earth. So just don't worry yourselves about that. Now, he's always been fascinated, which we talked to you about before, about the extent of, the way in which this product, being global in its true form, that is the Zucoin, SplitChain, Zucas, and we're here for all humanity. That's what we're here for. We want the sovereign connection to people and their rights. And there's a fascinating thing about it, really, that you start to see interferences that come in from all sorts of angles. One is government, of course, but that's been around for centuries, ever since the pharaohs. We don't worry about that. We do as much as we can. We so-called have votes, and we vote in and out the same idiots. And then you have the bureaucrats. They're a separate breed altogether. They are designed in labs, and they come out of the labs, and that's how they follow their lifestyle as a result, because that's what they want to do. But you then have, which is a taboo topic. It is a taboo topic. You have the movement in and out of our lives in terms of religion. Now, whether you want to go to heaven or not, or whether you want to end up somewhere else, everybody has that ability to make that call and that decision. But what caught Dr. Zhu's attention during his medicinal time, actually, in fact, we did mention the other day about having a function, and I think that could actually happen, is the Kai Bong. Our great friends up there at Kai Bong, the Kai Bong cocktail. That's starting to get a bit of a twitch for Dr. Zhu, thinking about a bong combined with a cocktail. Unbelievable. Cannot even get his head on that yet, but cannot wait to try it. So when you think about this overlay of other influences, let's just call them the influences that can come from left, right, and center. What caught Dr. Zhu's attention was an article, which now there's nothing underwater in this other than reporting it, because Dr. Zhu had mentioned of the issues and problems in the Middle East as a result of Iran. And now they're having a great time. They're out there, they're fighting back. That's the Iranians we talk about, the Persians, the great Persian Empire, which sort of switched into gear and followed through with the Sharia law in terms of Muslims. Now, it's turning into a mess. Dr. Zhu warned about this and said about the memorandum of understanding was going to be not a good thing, because you've got to go back to fundamentals. You've got to go back to the basics and the core of the religion. Now, everybody can believe what they want. That's entirely a matter for the individual. But what caught Dr. Zhu's eye is that when you think about financial products and things, this little article was amazing. Now, it was reported on the weekend that the renowned Islamic scholar, Mufti Taqi Usmani, and Dr. Zhu hopes he said that correctly for those that are listening, has declared purchasing goods with cryptocurrency is now impermissible, citing his research conducted together with experts who have found so far that cryptocurrency does not qualify as wealth as talked about from Allah in the Quran. Now, this is a big development. This is huge. This is huge in the crypto space. And you're wondering how you could possibly manage to intertwine religion with the core basics of cryptocurrency. Now, I've got to say this. This has now become a fatwa. Now, Dr. Zhu was intrigued because, as you know, for those that are close to Dr. Zhu, he's very intrigued about history of all shapes and forms, and has actually, in fact, written a book which hasn't been published yet, but it is out there, and it's a very extensive historical-based factual book on comparing Christianity with the Muslim faith. And, you know, it's called Islam, the Divine Trap, which is an interesting read for those that are believers and non-believers from whichever part of the world you come from. But now we're starting to see the religious bodies moving into this territory, which is the cryptocurrency and the sovereign rights that people around the world, no matter what faith, should be able to enjoy. Now, a fatwa has been issued. Now, it was originally issued by the Darul Ifta, Jama Darul Ulum, Karachi, and that was the original number. They've got a number here of 1447AH, Zilhaj, dated the 10th of June 2026. So that's last Friday. So aside from the Mufti Usmani, who's a former judge of the Federal Shariat Court, 5 other prominent scholars, Muslim scholars, have now been party signatories to this, which could have explosive ramifications for Muslims worldwide, particularly as it's coming out of Pakistan. And it's clear. The fatwa said, quote, "It is not permissible for you," referencing Muslims, to purchase books in question using cryptocurrency. Quote, according to research and opinion of experts so far, cryptocurrency is not considered mal, that's M-A-A-L, being wealth, which is referred to in the Quran, in Sharia. Now you've got to remember, Sharia, we're talking about in Sharia, which is the 90-odd% plus of the religious faith in Iran. And remember, you got the Sunnis and the Sharia, which is a couple of sects that split up when Muhammad was bringing the virtues and the wisdoms of Allah to the Muslim faithful back in 610 or 35, and then the book started to fall out from there. This is all in Dr. Zoo's book, by the way. But instead, they're saying that crypto is merely the recording of fictitious numbers in an account, whether in the form of USDT or other crypto tokens, it's stated. So they're making particular reference to USDT and other crypto tokens. They're saying it cannot be recognised as wealth. The fatwa has maintained that the buyer did not technically become the owner of those books because of such a transaction. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Dr. Zoo was intrigued. Well, did Allah actually say this? Did he communicate this to Muhammad? What happened? Why? Why would 2 billion people be pushed out of the crypto space of not having sovereign rights of ownership of a transfer of value? Now, it turns out that the fatwa is what they call a Hanafi fi application. That is, it's a human discretionary interpretation. It's not the direct express words coming from the Quran or Allah. And the distinction is crucial when comparing crypto to digital money in Islamic banking systems. Because remember, what is a currency? I mean, is it real? Just because you go to the Commonwealth Bank and you see some digits in an account, what's behind it? Who says that that's real? I mean, is it because the government says we want to make it real? Very interesting stuff, because there shouldn't be any digital distinction. If one group of people accept the fact that they can have, whether it's Bitcoin or even Ethereum, or in our case, Zucoins, can have and accept a transfer of value because it is in a digital form, then why wouldn't this fatwa include all currencies, which would put the Islamic faith in real trouble globally? And yet, isn't it interesting that the Strait of Hormuz, which is supposedly now pushed back by Iran, saying we're in control here, we're going to run this show, baby. Trumpy keeps dropping the bombs on them, trying to tell them not to have a nuclear warhead. Now, that's all the political side. But isn't it interesting that even the Iranian Revolutionary Guards can't help themselves but want to get hold of digital or virtual monies in order to charge tolls and fees, and they're accepting crypto. They've been accepting crypto. Remember, Dr. Zoo talked about the Islamic regime had quite a few cryptos, as in Bitcoin, frozen because they're naughty. But here we have a group of people that are interpreting now, and quite rightly, that's what their job in life is. They've got to interpret the Quran, but taking it to a level that somehow from 1400 years ago, when we're lucky to be exchanging, well, they had some currencies back then, but they were sort of gold nuggets and bits and pieces, but they were mainly trading in barter, all the sorts of cattle and sheep and all that sort of stuff and corn and things that were running around. And here we have this fatwa interpretation. Now, the Quran does discuss mal, M-A-A-L, and amwal, but it offers no technical legal definitions, of course, given the time that it was written, to talk about wealth in this in this context. There's no ruling on any conceivable context other than the interpretation of some guys that got together and highly respected scholars, and we have the same. But could you imagine, let's flip this, people, if the other side of the ledger was Christianity, and the Pope came out tomorrow and said, look, Jesus said he doesn't accept digital currencies, or he doesn't accept, banking currencies or whatever. Can you imagine flipping the script on that? I mean, just look around. You've got atheists, you've got Hindu, Buddhists, you've got all sorts of sects and religions, and all of a sudden someone comes out and starts promoting this. Now, Dr. Zhu's had a bit of an analysis, given the basis upon his book, as to, well, what's the intention of the word of Allah and the way in which that's described through the interpretation coming from Muhammad. And he's struggling. He's struggling to get a defined set of rules that would place cryptocurrency, particularly when there's others like those in Iran and very prominent in Iran, and they've got their own problems. I mean, there's a lot of people that follow, obviously, the Quran, and that's for reasons of what Allah talks about, and there's some naughty bits in there as well, just like any other faith. But it's fascinating. It is absolutely fascinating that this has been pinpointed and isolated, given the nature of how the world banking systems work. I mean, Dr. Zhu hasn't seen, God, the last time Dr. Zhu's seen some cash, my word. Actually, in fact, look, got to tell you the truth. Dr. Zhu's grandson, 7, received some actual cash in his little birthday card on the weekend. But it's been a long time between drinks in terms of that cash. It's only an alligator blood hasn't been winning that many races recently, so therefore the big cash pile has drained up a bit. It's gone back into Zucoins, of course, millions of dollars. But there you go. This is the interesting part of where is this all heading. If 2 billion people get isolated because of the Hanifi application, it's going to be an interesting time, people, because will they follow the system? Will they take out of their lives that sovereign control over their money? And we understand there are rules about interest and things when it comes to the Muslim faith, which is fair enough. It wouldn't be bad if the Australian banks had the same rule, actually, and said there's no more interest to be charged. Albo wouldn't have a problem. We'd be borrowing money. We'd be having a great time. We wouldn't have to pay interest. Be fantastic. Fantastic. You wander into the bank and you say, look, I'd like that harbourside house. I want 10 million bucks. I don't have to pay any interest, but I'll borrow that. Awesome, because we don't pay any interest. But no, that's not the Christian way. The Christian way is you pay interest, which means look at all the problems we've got. So it's got to be, you've got to keep an eye on this. They say that there's no crossover, but it is directly relevant to the impact of how we look at the marketing, which I alluded to some time ago. We're sort of shying away from that region for political purposes, because it's a bit of a train. Imagine if you bought another property in Abu Dhabi the other day, or Qatar. You'd be ripping your hair out. A couple of new drones come across on the weekend, take out one side of the building, boom, boom shakalaka. Now, just on boom shakalaka, people, I have received today an amazing photo. This came in today too. It's been a funny weekend, and there is an event up north at Cloncurry, as I understand it, and this is a horse event, and the horse event at Cloncurry, not a horse race event, but a horse event, and you wouldn't believe the name of the horse. The name of the horse, ready for this? Boom Shakalaka. Now, someone at Cloncurry has been listening to Dr. Zhu. What a cracker of a name. Boom Shakalaka. Looking at it right now on the phone. Beautiful looking horse too, by the way. Stockman horse, and no doubt it's worth quite a few bob with a name like that. What are the chances of that? What are the chances? Now, just quickly, we'll delve into a couple of questions here before I go on to the other. And just summarising that there, people, I'm just talking about very cautious and conscious of the road we take in terms of how we market things, because if this is the sort of things that are happening in the Muslim community, then that is of grave concern for those individuals. No doubt they'll have to stick to their faith and follow the fatwa, if that's the Sharia area that they're delving into. and it's going to be interesting times. But I don't know how you can manage the distinction 1400 years later between what sits in a bank account that shows nothing and is purely reliant upon the trust concepts of third parties versus the individual control and the uniqueness of the value proposition that we know can be in the hands of individuals, peer-to-peer. That is the answer in that front. I know where I want to sit and happy to sit exactly as that. So let's just keep an eye on that. That is going to be a big evolving development down the road. Can assure you, big time. Well, let's have a look. A couple of questions. Fancy creation. Was Dr. Zu behind the 7 million Zucoin transaction last week? I can categorically, unequivocally tell you no, it was not Dr. Zu. Dr. Zu doesn't have that many, unfortunately. Dr. Zu, when you spend $55 million on the project itself, the real value is that tuck a few away, as I've always said. You will always know at some stage Dr. Zu will keep a minimum of 10 coins because 10 coins will become extremely valuable. His trusts have got a few more than that. It's not even his trusts, but we do suspect that it's a big player. We have a couple of big whales out there, and they are long-term holders. They're not looking to, as far as Dr. Zu is aware, play any short-term games. They want to be seriously rich individuals, and good luck to them. They've backed the project for many, many years and deserve every single coin they're holding onto. What I can say is we have affectionately named this particular wallet Jatoshi. So out there in Zucoin world, we have a Jatoshi, not a Satoshi, but a Jatoshi. And that'll make another great story one day. And the intrigue and what happens with that will be absolutely fascinating as we move forward with that. Now, Wandering Being has said, yeah, been over 13M mover. Yes, that's correct. Well, that's of 13 million, I presume, Wandering Being you're talking about. And the good news is, as you've now all starting to see, whatever happens on a wallet, peer-to-peer transfers, and even as we want to lock and load back into Zootopia, hopefully not too far away, that will be running at a rate of knots because you will be seeing live trading on one hand coming through from Zootopia 24/7, and that'll be price adjusted accordingly and up and down like you wouldn't believe. And then you also have the live, which you're seeing live in terms of what the Zucoin peer-to-peer is. So it's going to be a pretty extraordinary, incredible time, especially when you start to layer that and sprinkle it with Zu tokens, which Dr. Zu has talked about, because you then get the fractionalization and you can then start to fire up big time in those fractions. The way in which the network picks it up, and you get to transparently see everything that comes through the SplitChain front end, which is there on myzucoins.org. We'll have a little update too. Also, we had our meeting today, which is fantastic. Robert was thumping into Dr. Zu's head this morning, all the excitement stuff he's doing with quantum computing, which is over between now and the end of the year. We talked about that. That's his pet baby there. He's got a couple more tweaks on the project in terms of long caching, which is really just to tighten up and accelerate even stuff in the Zootopia and other merchants. That component is for other merchants as well, because we are envisaging at some stage in the future that we're going to have bucket loads of transactions and microtransactions and all sorts of things for different merchants and different businesses, and it'll nearly give near perfection in terms of validation of transactions that this planet has ever had. So that's not Dr. Zu waffling. That's just what's been produced as a result of the success at the back end with SplitChain and the caching. One of the most incredible, ingenious concepts that we've seen in this crypto space. I think just on that, the Mufti Tak Usmani probably needs to dig a bit deeper before he keeps pushing out these fatwas about crypto, because it's well and truly just beyond the speculation and things that they're looking at because of Bitcoin. If they had a look at Zucoins, they'd realise that The fractionalisation of Zucoins can be issued by anybody, including governments. Dr. Zhu's already come up with some incredible concepts for tax planning for Australian government that could eliminate every single tax, state and federal, that would raise $1.2 trillion a year on a 1% surcharge, if you like, on every transaction, captures the big guns, the corporates, and there are no other taxes. There would be no Bankruptcy Act. There would be zero income taxes, capital gain taxes. There would be zero payroll. There would be zero stamp duty. There would be zero everything. No FBTs, no nothing. And they wouldn't need to collect it, and they wouldn't need to spend, $70 billion a year on running around how to collect it and causing everybody grief on the interpretations under the acts and so on. That is a very much feasible project of a government body that could take advantage of the network that would flow from a small smart contract locking in a small percentage on every transaction. But that's for another day. Dr. Zhu's too old, as he's already found himself and trying to fly on the weekend. So just be aware in terms of it's the full factual information that needs to be required, because it is Zucoins has certainly always promoted itself. One is much better than Bitcoin, pound for pound, because of the technology. It was a stupid concept there, thinking about trying to have a blockchain that never ceases to stop in growth. The Great Wall of Bitcoin, we affectionately refer it to. Those days are gone. It can't do fractionalization, can't do a whole bucket load of things. So that's exactly the sort of thought processes that should be considered, rather than just isolating to the current. Actually, Dr. Zhu then watched another show on Bitcoin, and there was some young fruitcakes out there trying to come up with this stuff. So they sat down with an accountant in the first week. That's Jatoshi and his mates and the cypherpunks. They'd have sort of had a bit of a different thinking, because it just went down the wrong road. It just went down, crazy road of trying to capture every transaction on the planet and then have massive engine power of computers. And, they're all underwater at the moment, even at the price. I think the last price today, we're back to 62 because Trumpy dropped a few bombs. And we're back into that game. We'll see what happens with SpaceX tonight. It'll drop a few lazy billion again, no doubt. There's all sorts of backfire going on between Elon and his little mate there, Sam Altman, and Open AI and all the ruckus that's going on there. In fact, I do have another presentation. Doctor's had so much time on his hands on the weekend that he prepared another document in relation to AI. And let me tell you this: I won't go into it today, but because I'm going to stick with circling back to Ethereum. But I will talk about how we can tokenize the tokens. Now, start to get used to that term, tokenizing tokens. What I'm referring to is the way in which you pay for your AI packets of data in order to use AI. They call that a token. So it's not related to the crypto tokens, but it's related to you acquire at certain dollar rates a token which comprises a certain volume of data in relation to how you use that for your AI and the output that you get as well. But Dr. Zhu's found a way using AI, funnily enough, so I had to use the tokens to get the tokens, but nevertheless, to tokenize tokens using Zhu tokens, which is a very intriguing concept to take advantage of the worldwide usage of AI and put that on our front doorstep, which then could bundle these things up and be used on Zootopia as well. Just another utility product line that, let me tell you, there will not be the tokenization of tokens in AI by Ethereum or Bitcoin. It will not happen. Happy to be corrected, happy to be scolded for it, but on the face of it, the way it works, micropayments, all the rest of it will not happen in that space, but it will happen with Zucoins, because that's the way we built the system, and the ability to move these things around, of course, with no fees and charges, which should assist, in fact, a bit of the fatwa from the Hanafi application as applied by the Mufti. But we might have to draw it to his attention there at some stage and say, look, maybe the only exclusion to this particular fatwa is Zucoins, because we shouldn't be depriving anybody on planet Earth with the opportunity of taking up this extraordinary, unbelievable product of sovereign control over your wealth, which on the face of it, I think Allah would be pretty happy with it, actually, the way it's defined under the Quran. But look, that's not for Dr. Zu to make that call. That's for others that are far more scholaristic in terms of their understanding of these things. So let's just see how that pans out. Now, let's have a look. Fancy Creation, got a question here. Why don't you ever talk about any meetings you have? Is it all confidential? Yes, you've answered your own question. It is. You got to remember, Fancy Creation, that there are a lot of naughty people out there. There are a lot of doubters and there are a lot of naughty people that try and take things away from you before you get to put it out there. So industrial espionage is a big thing. It may not be where you're sitting right here and now today, but it certainly is something that is an ongoing threat around the world. And we just keep a few of our cards close to our chest, and it won't impact on anything at this stage that you've got to worry about. The main thing is that we get the registration through AUSTRAC. Now, on the last calculation, I think we've got 28 days to go on that one, people. That was, as I said earlier in the show, the 12th of May is the correct date that we put it in. We have received nothing as of today. So, look, that's the position. And we've got a lot of other things on our plate that we're going to be doing as well in time. And as you would expect, I mean, you've got a just on that Fancy Creation, which is interesting stuff. It's a very, very good point you've raised, because just like you, with wouldn't have a clue who you are, wouldn't have a clue what wallet you've got, and wouldn't have a clue the coins you've got, but you like to keep those tucked away as well. So that's a bit confidential, and that's how your life can work as a result of the successes of the project. And you probably like to keep it that way. You know, I don't know whether you follow the elbow model and you've got dreams of wanting to shag certain people, or there's a bit of anal tearing going on, but nevertheless, you want to keep that confidential, and that's entirely a matter for your person's the way in which your lifestyle is, and we don't expect to want to delve deeper to get that. Obviously, if you're going to start a trade on Zootopia, then you start to put your head up, and you have to comply with the appropriate legislation of AML KYC, and that's what you'll do if you want to trade Zootopia. You will be required to complete that with Stripe, and that's just bad luck. That's bad luck, because that's what the world demands, and that's what will happen. So that confidentiality the cracks start to appear, and next thing you've reared your ugly head, and there you are. Boom. Someone has got you into the scene. In fact, that's been a big issue with what we talk about in our world of Zucoin, because that's what Dr. Zu wants to see happen in the reverse. What do I mean by that? Well, that's why we have the login process of the signature, encrypted signature that tests your wallet. That is the Zucoin wallet against the Zootopia wallet. And we don't store any of your personal information. I can assure you we don't have anything. And even on that point, if you haven't had a chance, go and have a look at Z8 Digital. That's getting stronger and stronger by the minute. There's a lot of exciting stuff happening in there of AI and assistance in information that you may need. In fact, it'd be interesting if you put in that question there about things being confidential and we don't talk about things, what AI would say. But that's open for discussion within z8digital.com. And that site, run by Peter, clearly doesn't have any stored login information. It just requires you to have your wallet and do the same processes that's happening with Zootopia. It'll do a signature test against the wallet and give you the green light to enter into Z8 Digital. Now, one of the things in Z8, there'll be a little update this week on it, is it's got an amazing and wonderful process, very simple, of you creating from your download of your CSV file, which is your transaction history. The team did this for Dr. Zu the other day, and absolutely magnificent. It spits out in a beautiful format the complete scheduling of all the transactions. There is a verification there, and we know for a fact that it's been now used by a couple of accountants and their auditors for the super funds who download that CSV, the person in their wallet. Well, firstly, they access Z8 Digital, and they then download the CSV into that file. And again, Z8 Digital does not store any of that information whatsoever in terms of what's downloaded from the CSV. You have localized that on your own phone, and it sits with you, and then that information is presented to your accountant or your auditor or lawyer, and then they can take that information, and then they can also then use the public wallet address, of which they then do a search on myzucoins.org using the split chain search capability, which then gives verification of the transaction. So it's very transparent, it's up front, and you can localize all of that on your phone for your purposes without a third party interfering in that at all, because it doesn't require at that point any of the KYC or AML other than what your accountant or lawyers are requesting. And you tick that box, away you go. It's magnificent. It really is a fantastic part of it. Now we've got a guest here, 148-15066. The graphic I'm looking at and listening to Dr. Zoo shows episode 88. That is correct. Do not change it, because it doesn't change over until episode 89 is finished. Nothing we can do about that. That's run by a company called Citrus, and Citrus tell us what to do. So until Dr. Zoo can produce his own complete broadcasting studio with his own, software, that's how it is. So that's a graphic that'll happen all the time. In the old days, it used to sort of spill into a live with the current versions, but they don't want to do that now. They just want to leave it as the previous episode, and then the new episode recording gets put up after the show is completed. So yes, it is episode 89, and that's why you're listening live right now, here and now, to episode 89 with Dr. Zoo, and just forget about what you're looking at. In fact, I think even in the earlier days too, if I played a great song, which no doubt some of you are listening to up there, particularly on the Mekong, welcome in on board Thailand, then yes, you would have seen the latest screenshots of the video for the song as well. But that's just one of those things. We haven't got the resources just yet to buy Citrus out and change these things. We'll just sit tight and be happy that we can chat freely away as we are doing right now, and allowing you the pleasure of wanting to put those questions in and bringing that to attention. But thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. Now, hi, Alan, Wandering Being. Are you still getting good numbers onboarding? Yes. Sunny Pioneer, good onboarding numbers will happen once AUSTRAC approval arrives and Zootopia opens for trading. That's correct. People get a bit frustrated because they're very keen this trip to want to get out there and start trading. So we're very excited to see that happening. Don't get your expectations up in terms of price, though. I'm still keeping a very narrow lens on this, because it'll be a balancing act between those that have picked up some reasonably cheap coins that want to possibly double or triple their money at lower prices, and those that are accumulating. But just be aware of that. Don't get too excited. Dr. Zoo's plan, his roadmap rolls out. It hasn't changed since the early days. The data is there, what we want to do. We've got Zucas to push out pretty hard. We've got direct geo mapping. We've got direct drops around the world. We've got our strategic players that we're working with. They are incentivized because they don't need to spend money up front, which is a huge advantage we have over any of these advertising bodies. It's amazing when you don't go, talking to a big institution or a merchant and say, listen, how about you pay us for doing X, Y, Z? Instead, you say, look, here it is. It's all about your business, and it's all about maximizing your database and friendship with your own customers, and encourage them to use this because they get the direct benefit rather than the processes of advertising. Why do we know that works? Because that's why Zucas got the Innovation Award for 2020. That's why, because others have recognised it and realised that this is in fact, today, here it is, the 13th of July. Today is the 13th of July, is the anniversary. Today is the anniversary of, what have we got? 7 years. 7 years when we first fired up and launched the firepower of Zucas. Second versions are looking magnificent. So there you go. We know how fantastic that was. What an exciting period that was of revolutionising Pokemon Go. And in fact, I think, who told me that? Robert might have told me this morning, that there was a big Pokemon Go run around thing in Melbourne over the weekend, which went brilliantly. It's not a failure thing. It's an absolute globalised success, and will be more so. In fact, Dr. Zhu read another report that said they make about $3 billion because of the data they're making underneath, which is what we want to do, just quietly. Yeah, keep that confidential, people. Zootopia wants to make absolute squillions of dollars by on-selling anonymous data of location-based information. Think about that. We don't care who you are. We don't need to know who you are. We just need to know where you are. And that's what Zucoins delivers, those outcomes all around the world. And we hope that the concept for that basis isolates and takes us out of some of this stuff that we're seeing in terms of the mufti on the Muslim side of things. It's would be a very, very sad day indeed if we can't revolutionise and share that around the world, despite the friction we have at political and religious levels. It's hasn't been going on for thousands of years, so it's nothing new really. And you can see that in one day we'll publish the big book of Islam, the Divine Trap. It's a very fascinating book, factual. It's just based purely on the two books being put together. So now, question. What's Z8 Digital? Z8 Digital, Sunny Pioneer. That's a good question. But Z8 Digital, we're gonna get an email out on this later in the week. It's the new AI accelerated hyperventilating machine that responds to your questions based on some massive data inputs that we've been building over 7 years on all aspects of the combination of the business, that we can tick off and be very proud of ourselves. You guys as early adopters, you guys that have taken the risks, you guys that understand that you've got a digital asset and that looking forward to maximising that. Dr. Zhu hasn't changed or flinched from his objective. He's told 1 million times. In fact, would have been nice on the weekend to have that G800 out the airport. Could have relaxed and had a few hours up there and gone to Hong Kong for the races on Sunday. Keep the leg up, and it would have relieved a bit of the pain. Having a quiet little gin and tonic there, or one of the Kai Bong cocktails, would have been awesome. But not to be yet. That journey is the next phase, where we look at the price based on proper utility and usage. Usage is what our crypto's about. Trillions of transactions is what we want, what we can deliver. Not interested in this, carry on about the speculation of pure unadulterated greed. We want to make it worthwhile that you can take a single coin and make money out of it. Not just the price, but money because you can fractionalize it and create a business opportunity. That's why I'll talk a bit more on Thursday about the opportunity that just come out of the blue, out of left field, was when Dr. Zhu was thinking about how can we take advantage, we as in the Zucoin community, anybody with coins, create new utility and value on the back end of the AI industry. And instead of the heavyweights controlling AI, Dr. Zhu's going to share with you the ability to create tokenization of tokens. And it's a very, very powerful concept that may not be Dr. Zhu that does it, but it'll be others out there that'll get onto it and say, wow, this is a cracker. This is a cracker. I'm going to become a billionaire because I'm tokenizing tokens of AI. Way you go. I mean, Dr. Zhu's excited because he wants to do takeovers of companies. And remember, the dream of the globalized lottery is important as well. I mean, we talk about gambling, just on that. We talk about gambling and the impact that's happening. There's a lot of chatter in the backdrop about problem gamblers and all the rest of it. We get that. Problem gambling is a problem. But let me say this, without some form of it, you wouldn't have hospitals and schools and roads and things. So there are always a offset against that to those that are the true goody-good two shoes that want to preserve all of our lives for the rest of our lives that not gambling. Funnily enough, Dr. Zhu grandparents, this is going back a while now, as an example, in their 90s. And they enjoyed the occasional, quite often, have a little down there at the commercial club and go on the pokey in their 90s, and it was said that they should be saving. Now, Dr. Zoo couldn't get his head on that. What are they saving for? At 90 odd? You'd be joking. Put that into a super fund. Well, they may as well enjoy the moment. Married for 75 years, and they were together the entire time, and they didn't do anything silly, really. They put a little few bob in the machine, kept the business going, kept the staff happy, the lights on, enjoyed the few beers at 90 odd, the old shardy, and look what happens. They had a great time. So it's all about perspective, where you sit and how you sit in that picture. But the gambling concept that Dr. Zoo introduced, which he wants to put and tokenize and can do so now, has been around since the year 1694, when they ran out of money there and they were fighting Elizabeth was fighting the Spanish Armada and needed to raise £1 million quickly. And the way you minimise the impact is that you, if you're not aware, British premium bonds been around, and that was the date it sort of started, is where you give £10 or multiples to the government, you leave it on deposit, and you don't earn any interest, but it puts you, each 10 quid earns you the right to one entry in a multi-million pound draw every month. And just to put that in perspective, there's about $270 billion there now, and there are millions of pounds paid out each month. In fact, there's about 7 or 8 billion pounds deposited every month. There's over 25 million people. That's what can change the dynamic for governments and people that don't lose their life savings, because you're only losing the value of the interest. Why is that good? Well, that's why Dr. Zoo was suing the government, because that's what the concept was going to be brought to the Australian table. And instead of owing $1 trillion and having a rising interest rate environment and paying out millions and millions of dollars of taxpayers' money on interest, you could have a AAA rated, government guaranteed British premium bond type concept. Now, how crazy is that? How crazy is that? And fully transferable around the world using tokenization. Just to throw out a few ideas there, people, because it's going to be big. We know we can make it big because the system works. It works magnificently. Split chain. Oh, what a power engine. Scalable. Incredible. You've got the peer-to-peer validation. You guys are in control. Your wallets. There they are. You two. Get together. Two-factor authentication. The only product in the world. Easy downloads. Unbelievable. What else? 9 months you waited for notifications, and how good's that stuff? Someone's out there and they did 7 million coins the other day. 7 million coins. Didn't even get a blimp. Not a phone call from a bank. Nothing. Ready to position itself. Jatoshi, there he was, doing a transaction. Didn't have a phone call from a bank or anybody. Full power and control and sovereign rights as a result of that transfer, and validated in the chain. So much so, you guys have even seen it. There it is. Transparency, but still anonymous behind the scenes. So there you go. That is exactly what we're chasing for that sort of program. Now, a couple of other little questions here, just to say, yes, this particular guest has said, I've just joined Z8 Digital and asked Dr. Zoo a question. It works well and fast. Well, I think you'll be surprised. As I said, we will get a email out on that. I am excited about Z8 because rather than you getting a response that requires time, see, a lot of these things take time. You know, when you send a query in and you think it's innocent enough, it sets off a chain reaction that means that people's time is dedicated, obviously, to responding, but that time could be better directed to something else that's required behind the scenes that needs to be done. And there's a lot of things we've been doing, like we haven't stopped, I know on the weekend, massive amount of testing and things happening. That's been a big part and parcel of the program, and we don't stop because, honestly, another little session with Riley today, and what's he want to do? We want to make sure that we switch that green button on ASAP. As soon as that comes in from AUSTRAC, it'll be turned on and there'll be no turning back. We don't get a couple of cracks at trying to work out how in the hell this is going to, change the whole program. But anyway, that's exactly where we want to be. Now, I think I'm not going to delve into now that enough time with the Ethereum. but I will say that we're going to smash Ethereum. I will talk about that, and I'll marry that in with the AI on Thursday. So you can rest assured that we have got the facts before us. We're only outlining the facts, comparing apples with apples in terms of why we now are got our sights on Ethereum's little program. They're making truckloads of money based on ridiculous sums of money being made from gas fees and all the rest of it, that you don't have that problem with Zucoins or fractionalization or Zoo tokens, and you get a far better outcome in transferability as a result of the particular real-world assets that you're trying to encapsulate that can be embracing that. In fact, Dr. Zoo said it before that the pure Ethereum can be wrapped with a fraction of a Zucoin to create far greater transferability than the huge onerous costs that are coming out around the world. And that goes the same with the ability to, mobilize lots more people into this space with those sort of tokens than you could even ever dream of when you think about the interesting stuff that's happened even more recently as at the 1st of July. And it's we've seen 2,800 odd exchanges. We warned about this, that exchanges in Europe are no longer with us. They've gone. In fact, one of Dr. Zoo, Dr. Zoo was going to compete with him, but certainly he's not there to compete now. But Morty, wishing you well with L-Bait. We note that the regulatory changes in Australia changed the dynamic of your business with L-Bait, and you are no longer with us here in Australia as an exchange, and it's getting more and more concentrated. What we want to see is that you can trade those assets if that tickles your fancy by wrapping them around Zucoins and have a globalized position through Zootopia, which is going to be unbelievable because we don't store your money and we don't store your coins. We don't want anything to do with it. We don't store your data and we don't get ourselves worrying about encryption and all the rest of it. It doesn't require us to be in that position, which puts us to an advantage because it means the back-end systems don't need as much money spent in terms of the compliance regime. Got to have it, but we don't want to see that in place as a result. So, people, I'm going to wind up today on that happy note. I just wanted to flag how things can come out of left field, out of nowhere. And one example was what I alluded to earlier in the show about the position of the Mufti's Usmani's fatwa, and all of a sudden it's thrown a spanner in the works for those of that faith, Sharia, and it's amazing how these things come out of nowhere all of a sudden, and you wonder, they might have had more important things to think about than worrying about the comparison of trying to justify the differential between a digital asset as in the crypto space or a digital currency as in the fact that it's issued by a government. Not sure why that would give you any greater credibility, especially when you see that the US debt's at $31 trillion odd and they keep printing the stuff. That's why we go able to play, or they can play with things like inflation and all the rest of it. And you do have a limited supply both in Zucoins and Bitcoin that puts a bit of a cap on that, and it certainly can inherently pull in that value far greater than you can with a eroding, currency that's pushed out just for the hell of it. And Australia is no different. The government policies of the day destroy your wealth without even trying. Just ask those that caught up in this mess from our great man Albo, which for those around the world, that's Anthony Albanese and his little sidekick, Jim Chalmers, doctorate of nothingness, who certainly needs to rethink economic policy and how and the way that works, because it is causing problems everywhere. In fact, just on that note, little wind up, we had one of our Zucoin holders very upset this morning because part of their roof collapsed on the weekend, and a simple inquiry to the insurance company. This is in Victoria, which is the great state of nothingness, high taxes, all the rest of it, but was making a simple inquiry to collect the insurance to fix the roof, and lo and behold, started to get a drilling from the insurer as to how many bedrooms they had, because as he then realised they were asking direct questions that had no relevance to the roof that had collapsed outside. And it turns out that these questions are being imposed and recorded and sent back to the Victorian state government, because you then get a tax imposed if you're not using all your bedrooms. Can you believe it? Can you believe the way you would have raised money to fund $15 billion black holes with the CFMEU? $360 million on a contract that doesn't exist with a sports venue that didn't happen at Ballarat because of the Commonwealth Games. I mean, the list goes $300 million of advertising for the great Daniel Andrews and building his statue for these clowns. And there they are using these other bodies to create some form of little, inquiry into how many bedrooms you're actually using, which then could introduce a tax. Wait till you get the consensuses and the surveys, Australia, because they're going to be asking all these questions so they can work out another way of taxing you. That is what they want. Well, on that happy note, people, take care, look after yourselves. We look forward to Thursday where we will dig deep. We will dig deep and dig deep indeed into Ethereum, because that's who you're competing against. We're not competing really against Bitcoin other than price. We're so far ahead of Bitcoin, it's not funny. Technically wise, processing wise, and the capabilities, Ethereum's next on the list, and we are looking forward to really coming back with some information on that front. And of course, the AI tokens. That's a game changer in itself, which could explode the growth of fractionalization in our little business and our little world, which impacts upon your price. Keep your eye on the Gulfstream G800, people. Look forward to that. Catch up with you and look forward to Thursday. Cheers, everybody.